Welcome to our new series of webinars designed to help you navigate your way through some of the mental health issues linked to lockdown. I'm Gillian Nissim and I'm the founder of Workingmums.co.uk. As well as a job site that offers full-time and part-time flexible jobs, we're a community site providing parents and employers with support and advice and sharing best practice. Particularly at the moment, we're focusing on sharing and delivering advice and support to parents and employers to help them navigate the challenges of lockdown. We all know that mental health is a huge issue during this lockdown, and in recent webinars we've focused on younger children's mental well-being and also how mums can overcome stress and anxiety through exercise. Today I'm really pleased to welcome back Dr. Amanda Gummer, child psychologist and founder of thegoodplayguide.com. He's going to talk to us about the complex and challenging issues around teenage mental health, how we can understand what teenagers might be going through in lockdown and how we can help to protect their mental health. So welcome, Amanda, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back. And let's kick off with the M word, motivation. I think at the best of times, motivating teenagers can sometimes be a challenge. So at the moment, I mean, how do we get them just to get up in the morning when there's not the same kind of schedule and timetables?
I think one of the most important things is the communication. So trying to agree sort of what's reasonable. And when you're in the sort of normal situation and you can sit down and you're having a sort of non-confrontational chat with them, maybe over a meal time, manage expectations around bedtimes and getting up time and exercise and just general and schoolwork and all of that, and ask them what they feel is reasonable. And the chances are you can then have a conversation and meet somewhere in the middle. The chances are what they see as reasonable and what you see as reasonable may well be a little different, but at least you can have the conversation and you know where each other's starting from. Very few kids will openly say that they want to spend 14 hours on their screens without any sense of needing to do anything else. So once you've got that framework that's been agreed, then it's easier to stick to that because it's not you nagging them, that's what the agreement is. And that can involve helping them motivate to keep fit, to socialise with their friends, to get out of bed at a sensible time and to help around the house.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that all makes real, it makes real sense. And actually, it's trying to get, I guess, the boundaries between staying on online until the early hours and managing that with schoolwork too. Also, I mean, I guess one of the other real challenges for teenagers is boredom as well. At home 24/7, a bit like Groundhog Day. How do we help them deal with boredom, particularly if they're really, used to having really active social lives, or maybe, involved in loads of different sports activities? You can't even watch sport on TV really right now.
No, sure. And I think for that, it's a really useful thing to talk to them about their hopes and their dreams for the future, and help them embark on a project that will move them in that direction. So maybe they're particularly interested in animals, or they want to be a doctor, or they want to develop as an artist of some sort. Whatever it is that they're passionate about and they're really interested in, help them look at ways of turning that into a sort of a stepping stone for future careers, or just exploring it in more detail so that they're more informed about maybe what grades they need to get for uni, or what entrance requirements there are for college courses, or anything like that. So get them thinking longer term so that they've got that kind of forward-looking, motivated, again, it helps with the motivation, but something to look forward to and a reason for getting out of bed as well.
Brilliant, thank you. I guess one of the other things that's happening is there's news coming out everywhere. I think it's fair to say teenagers probably get their news from sources that are different maybe to where you or I would choose to get news from. Do you think it's important that we sit down and watch the news together, and that we try and give some perspective to the situation?
I think keeping that conversation going, talking about what's going on in the world, is really important. And if you are watching the same piece of news, it obviously makes it very easy to ask them what they think, answer their questions, discuss the sort of implications. So yeah, I would encourage you to sort of talk to the kids about it, but I would say co-viewing of the news is probably not necessary, as long as they know that they can talk to you. I mean, I've got my eldest daughter is incredibly interested in the politics and all the rest of it, and the youngest is just not. So you have to tailor it to their individual needs, I suppose, and their interest levels, but helping them know that you're accessible and available to talk to them about their views and concerns and worries is really important.
No, thank you. I mean, we talked a few minutes ago about motivation generally. I guess big challenge is how we can encourage our kids to keep up with their studies. And you know, again, you know, a bit of a Groundhog Day situation, and it's hard as a parent too if despite all that encouragement they're still resisting. How do we manage that? And also, what would you advise for those teenagers who are coming up for GCSEs and A levels next year, who might feel now that they're going to be behind in their studies, you know, how they're going to catch up?
Again, depends on the personality of the child, but where possible, I feel like in the lockdown situation where it is intense, you are on top of each other. Actually picking your battles is really important, and I would let the schools handle the schoolwork. So they will have stuff set to them. Most secondary schools are doing virtual learning, and they're sending homework through digital means. The kids are used to that because that's how they communicate with their friends, so that's not a challenge for them particularly. And yes, make sure they've got time, make sure that they are eating proper meals and just generally being healthy. But I would focus on that rather than whether they've got their homework done or whether they're handing in their assignments on time. And I'd let the school deal with that. And then with the caveat that obviously if the school get in touch with you and you then have to deal with it, that you won't be happy, and then some of the other nice stuff that you're giving them the freedom to do will stop. I mean, teenagers at this age, or teenagers generally, love feeling in control of their own lives. They want that agency, they want that independence, they want you to get off their back. So it's about developing that trust. So if they can prove to you that they can manage their life, then you can let them make more decisions about their life. So if they're getting their schoolwork done and you're not hearing from their teachers, and you're seeing that they're putting some work in, then maybe they get to choose what bedtime they have, or you know, that those kind of what they watch on telly is less regulated, those kind of things. But letting that leash out a little bit and giving them that respect and the trust will normally pay dividends, but obviously they've got to earn it.
No, that's great advice, really great advice. And I think a really interesting point too about, you know, for schools to manage as well. And you know, I like the idea of taking ownership, and our kids taking ownership makes so much sense. We've had questions in from our readers too, so if it's okay, I'm going to ask you some of those now. My son just tells me to go away if I try to talk to him about what's going on. How do I encourage him to talk about his worries when he just shuts me down all the time?
I would say do a joint activity. It's always harder to get anything more than sort of monosyllabic answers out of kids when they feel like they're being interrogated. And you get the kids who are happy to chat about anything for ages, but a lot of kids, you know, what do you do at school today? Nothing much. What did you eat for lunch? Nothing. How are you? Fine. You know, you get that because it feels to them like you're interrogating, and it feels like there's a right and a wrong answer when you're doing something together. So get them to help you make dinner, or get them to help you sort the laundry, or do something together, go for a walk, play a game. When you do that, conversation will flow more naturally, and it's more of a narrative dialogue rather than a Q&A where they feel that they're sort of under pressure. And I think those kind of things, and talk, if you can also, especially with teenagers, you can start by giving your opinion, going, you know, oh, I've just seen that this has happened, and I'm a bit worried that might mean that, you know, we can't go and see Granny for another 3 weeks or whatever. You talk about your feelings and open up to them and ask for their opinion, ask for their support, not in a sort of using them as an emotional prop kind of way, but just value their opinion. Let them know that you want to hear, and you know that they're able to help you as much as you can help them, and keep that as they get older. That will be a really key thing to keeping that relationship solid.
That's brilliant. And I guess what might be the right time for us to ask a question isn't necessarily the time that they want to answer it. That's brilliant. Another question. I've asked the school for help as my daughter's becoming withdrawn, but they keep suggesting things like keeping in touch with friends and family. But what if they hate Zoom and the like? It makes her feel more self-conscious and refuse to do it.
Yeah, and a lot of kids do have sort of body image confidence issues, and the old-fashioned phone calls are a really good way of keeping in touch. So it doesn't have to be a video call; it can be a phone call, writing letters, those kind of things. Even just sending emojis and stuff via text. If she's keeping that communication going, that's better than nothing. But if she's really withdrawing, then I'd get some, I'd look to get some help with that, because it's something that you want to nip in the bud. So boosting her self-esteem, not commenting on her appearance, not making too much of a fuss about what you look like, whether you've got makeup on, or those kind of things, all can help her feel a bit more confident. And making sure you're giving her a good model to copy is important. But in terms of that kind of social isolation, if she really is withdrawing, play, I would always say, is an easy sort of first step. But if it gets, so when I say play, I mean like playing a board game with her, trying to do something over Skype, maybe with grandparents or family friends that she's not so self-conscious with, and just encouraging her to keep in touch with her friends in whatever way she can. But then if it does start to worry you significantly, then I would get that, I get some professional help with that.
Actually, linked to that and kind of concern over with withdrawing. And another question: if my son already suffered from depression before lockdown and sleeps most of the day and won't do anything, what support is there for parents of teenagers who had pre-existing anxiety, which has been made worse by lockdown?
Sure, and that's one of the biggest sort of challenges, I think, for parents. If you've already got something that you're struggling with and this situation has exacerbated that, it can be really, really challenging. But presumably in that case there is some support in place already, so I would be led by that, whether that's the sort of SENCO or pastoral support within the school, or whether it's an external professional. They will have by now put sort of procedures and things in place to enable the kids to access some support in some ways, and again I would talk to them and be led by them, but just let your child know that he, or your son, know that he is loved and valued and you're there for him, without creating too many opportunities for him to for the conflict to sort of flare up around what he is or isn't doing.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. That's really sound advice. Another question. My mum died of COVID-19. How can you help teenagers deal with grief when they won't talk to you about it?
I'm so sorry to hear that. That's not something any of us want to have to go through. But I think the most therapeutic, or the most healthy way to deal with this is to not try and bottle it up yourself. Let your kids see that you're sad. Talk about your mum, talk about the memories you've got with her. A lot will depend on the relationship your kids had with your mum. If she was a very involved granny, just almost talk about her in a very sort of normal, matter-of-fact way. Are you cooking a favourite dinner tonight, or those were her favourite flowers, or this reminds you of her. Those kind of just part of the conversation. It'll help you, and if you're coping okay, you'll be able to help your kids navigate the grief. Don't force it. Everybody deals with it in their own way, and I think everything is heightened at the moment, so just give them a bit of time to process it, but try and make sure that you're dealing with your grief well yourself first, and then let them know that you're happy to talk to her. A lot of kids worry about talking to their parents about grandparents dying because they think they're going to upset you, and it may just be that your children don't want to upset you by mentioning your mum, and actually that's for you to manage, because if you want to talk about her and want to help use that as part of the healing process, that can be really good, and it can be good for the kids to hear, but like I say, in a more kind of reminiscent, nice, positive way. Her favourite whatever, that kind of just into normal everyday conversation, rather than a deep dive into exploring their feelings of loss or anything like that. I think those things will come out naturally.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amanda. We're actually on our last question now. I really struggle to get my children to be positive about the future with climate change. And now there's this. How can I help them feel more positive when I don't really feel it myself? Great question.
Yeah, and so there's two things here. One is your feelings and one is your kids' feelings. And I think we're all at different stages in our lives, and for kids not to feel optimistic about the future is really worrying. So I think we possibly a bit more cynical and a bit more long in the tooth, so can see the pros and cons of stuff. And but I think in order to give the kids that motivation that we were talking about earlier to go out and seize their life and do what they can, I think we do need to give them a sense of hope. And going back to what we were talking about earlier with the motivation on a project, something that they can do, whether it's that they, join or start a campaign group. I mean, look at Greta Thunberg, those kind of inspirational examples, Malala, those, anybody, they started off as perfectly normal kids with, nothing out of the ordinary, and then something happened and suddenly their lives have changed and they've made such a difference to the world. And I think giving kids that, again, agency, responsibility for their actions, helping them find their passion in life and pursue it, will give them that sort of foresight looking further into the future, that they can then start to feel like they're doing something positive to make the world a better place, to make the world into somewhere that they want to live in, and do address some of the issues that are important to them. And I think giving them that freedom to pursue that not in a sort of revolutionary way, but in a proactive, little bit of a rebel rousing, get them het up about it and allow them to sort of rant at you about the state of the world, and then help them find out what they can do to address it, I think can be really empowering and gives that optimism, helps give the optimism back. There's also there are if you go back through the ages, this is a very common phenomenon, and most generations feel that the world's been screwed up by the generations before. Actually, it's not necessarily the case. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what's happening in the next sort of 50 years, but if you look at things like global poverty levels, science, medical advances, there's an awful lot that is better, so much better now than it used to be. So I think it's Human Progress, or humanprogress.org or something, is one of those websites that has charts where we're doing okay. So yes, climate change is a massive worry, but we've cured smallpox and people aren't dying of a cut to their thumb anymore, and there is a lot that's happened that is amazingly positive. So making sure that it's not that we're getting a sense of perspective on the world and being realistic about the good as well as the bad can, again, helps people put it into a sensible frame of reference and feel empowered to do something about the things that matter to them.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's really kind of positive and practical advice. And I love the idea of teenagers as agents for change as well. I mean, what an opportunity. But that's fantastic, Amanda. And thank you again. I think, again, as mother of teenagers too, really, really helpful advice there. And it's really practical as well. So thank you, Amanda. And I hope that you will join us again in future webinars.
And like I said, like I said, the Good Play Guide, it's not just for little kids. I think everybody benefits from a family game or something, and getting involved and making your life more playful. And just to say that on the 23rd and 24th of May, we're doing a Play at Home festival. So anybody's welcome to join. It's all completely free, and that's at playathomefest.com if you would like to have a look.
Brilliant. So please, everybody, check it out, both sites, and look forward to the bank holiday in May. Amanda, thank you again, and everybody keep well.